Hey everybody, Corey here, and it's been a little bit since I've uploaded a video. I've been busy. I'm kind of lazy, honestly, with uploading things. And that's proof by my magic channel, which I don't think I've posted to in like a year. But wanted to do this video before the end of the year and not do like a TBR because I've been reading, but I don't need to just do a bunch of wrap-ups right now because I'm a slow reader. And I've just been reading horror. I might do like a wrap up, but I wanted to do my like top 5 new to me authors and my favorite books by those authors. Some of them I've maybe only read one book, but they have turned into, from that one book they've turned into like I've gotta read more from this author. This is like an instant buy for me. And the books that I've picked aren't maybe necessarily what would be considered their best books. I mean, I love them, but I'm sure people are like, oh, well, that's not their best. You should go with this or whatever. But a couple of them, for me especially, were like the approachability of the book. And I think it'd be one that if me being a newer reader myself, they're books that I feel like I could hand to someone like, hey, you should read this because you're interested in this. But yeah, so just kind of ease. I want to start off with an honorable mention. So like I said, my list was pretty big to start off with because I'm very new to reading. I just really started, like I've read here and there my whole life, mostly wrestling biographies and magic books. Which obviously don't count, the magic books at least. But last year in 2024, I read, I think, 4 books in total. So like, I didn't read a whole lot. And this year I'm up to almost 60. I think I'm at 55 right now. So really every author is a new to me other than like Stephen King. And I primarily read horror. So I've been trying to branch out a little bit, but you'll see by this list that it's mostly horror. But my honorable mention that I struggled on where to put the author and the book, but I decided that I wanted to go with someone else, and that is Blake Crouch. And then again, it's a toss-up. Like, is the book Dark Matter, or is it Pines, to start off the Wayward Pines trilogy? And I loved Pines. I've not read the rest of them yet, and I kicked myself for that. It's always on my TBR to pick up Wayward, and I just haven't. But for me, it's got to be Dark Matter. Like that book was just nonstop. I could not put it down. Like I finished it. It might be one of the first books that I finished like in just a matter of like 4 days. It's relatively short. My sweet spot for books is between 300 and 400 pages. I love a book that falls in that range. But it's Dark Matter is easily one of those that I would be like, for someone who doesn't read, I'd be like, hey, you should check this book out. So that's my honorable mention, Dark Matter, Blake Crouch. I'm definitely going to read more by Blake. I believe he's got a new book coming out, or maybe just came out recently, that I need to check out. So, and the 10-year anniversary special edition of Dark Matter, I believe, is coming out soon too. So I will probably be picking that up. Also, sorry for my hair. Sorry, not sorry. But on to the list, and maybe not in any particular order, but I've got at number 5, Almakatsu. I hope I'm saying that right. Fiend. I just read this last month. And I have other Almakatsu books. But this one I got from, I want to say, I was from Nightworms. And I don't read a lot of physical books. I prefer digital. Digital is my format of choice, be it ebook or audio, but usually ebook. And short book, relatively short. It's like 300. I think it's just under 300 pages. That sounds about right. But incredible story. And I've never seen Secession. I see it compared to like Secession with like a demon or whatever. But I found the whole story just really addictive with Fina. And Alma's writing style, one of the big thing for me is I need a writing style that flows. If it starts getting clunky, you start throwing in like big words or confusing words or just like anything that I have to stop and like think about what you're saying, or just doesn't like have a nice like conversational flow to it, I'm going to struggle, and I'm probably going to rate you a little bit lower. Just for me personally, it may be like a book may be written very well for most people. For me, it's a no go. It's just like something that takes me longer to comprehend while I'm reading. I'll finish it. It just is going to take me a while. And Fiend and Alma's writing was just so fluid, and the story itself was very gripping. Essentially about this family, they've got a lot of power in this corporate world, and you find out that there's some things that have been, I guess, agreed to, a pact in sorts made in the past that have been passed down throughout generations, and it's so good. And like there was a twist at the end I was not expecting at all, which I appreciate. So Amakatsu, she's a must pick for me. I've got The Hunger. I think I picked up Fervor recently at a half price books, and The Deep recently at a half price book. So I am going all in on her. I think I'll probably read Hunger next. Because she does some retelling. So The Hunger, I believe, is a retelling of The Donner Party. And The Deep is a retelling, like a horror retelling of the Titanic. So I'm really into those. And Fervor, I don't remember much about Fervor, but I'm excited about it. I'm really excited to read more books from Alma Katsu. My next up, my number 4, I'm going to put Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. First thing that I've read from her, but I'm going to be picking up more. I might even pick up some of her young adult stuff because I'm really interested in that. But again, writing style, really easy to read. I wanted to keep reading. Like when I got to the end of a chapter, I was like, oh, I've got to keep going. And this was a longer book. This was like 500 and something pages. And I see people talk about like the last bit of the book they get kind of lost on. And I think I rated Bury Your Bones like 5 stars. If not, it was pretty close. And I was into it the whole way. The complaints people had, I didn't have the same complaints, because like I understood, like from someone who enjoys movies and like different kinds of storytelling, like I understood like where people were complaining about. I understood like why this character's saying this. And it's described as toxic lesbian vampire, and it's so good. It's so good. There was things like a couple moments I was not expecting, and when it started building up, there was things I'm like, oh, mate, this could be happening, and some things I might have been right on, but like the very end, I was just like, I don't like, what the heck. But that made V.E. Schwab for me a pickup. I'll be picking up The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue soon. Like I said, probably continuing on picking up some of her back catalog, because I really loved Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. Next at number 3 was Ronald Malfi, and that was Black Mouth was the book that I picked up. I'm sorry if I keep looking at the screen. I'm recording this on my phone because I've got this fun Rode mic that connects to my phone, and I'm trying to look up at a screen that shows me my list and at the camera, and then I'm glancing over at the screen, which I know is a big faux pas, so I apologize. But Black Mouth, Ronald Malfi. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so for me, I wanted to find just like another like go-to horror guy, and everyone talked about Black Mouth, said it's it light, and I would agree with that. I would also, I'm gonna say something maybe controversial, but I would say that Black Mouth is better than it, and it's not because it's missing the controversial scene. I might be the only one in the world that's not bothered by that. I don't know what that says about me. I grew up in the 80s. I'm an older millennial. I'm at the beginning cusp of it. And like I remember friends being like 10 years old and screwing around with each other. So like I don't know. Anyways, I digress. That's a totally different thing about my psyche, I guess. Um but anyways, Black Mouth. You have got this group of friends, three that are just kind of like outcasts, and then a brother. And I don't know, it's just something about like you start off like with I could think it's been a while since I read, but you start off like kind of in the present. You're following our main guy. I can't even remember his name now, but you could tell he's got issues. He's got some substance abuse issues. You find out like it's kind of a generational thing. His dad had some substance abuse issues, and like these our three mains, leaving the brother out, all have like these just different things that are going on. We get to see them in the present, and then flashback to where they meet a magician. And it's so, I don't know, there's something about it that's just so encapsulating. You're reading and you're just like, what is going on here? And I was worried. The first couple chapters had me really worried, because I'm one of those, like, if it doesn't grab me instantly, like I start things like, oh no, do I need to DNF this? Have I made a mistake? Like, everyone loves this and I'm so. But after I got through the first couple chapters, it really sped up for me getting into it. I find that that's sometimes a sticking point for me, is getting through those first couple chapters. That's why I try to give everything about 30% before I was like, no, I'm done. And I'm glad I kept going with it. And it made Ronald Malfi one of those that I'm going to pick up again. More of his back catalog, read more of his stuff. Goal in 2026 is to get at least 2 or 3 Malfi books read and out of the way, and keep reading more. Not out of the way, but just like keep reading more Ronald Malfi stuff. So that's my number 3. Number 2, for sci-fi. So everything's been kind of horror adjacent. For sci-fi, Leviathan Wakes. Really the whole Expanse series. I'm on book 6 currently. I when going from horror to reading sci-fi was a big jump for me, because I've tried fantasy and I hate fantasy. I cannot stand it. I can't get through it. I've DNF'd every fantasy book that I've tried to read. So I was worried going into Leviathan Wakes, because everyone's like, oh, it's fantasy in space. And I'm like, oh no. But it's totally different. And James S.A. Corey, it's 2 authors, in case for some reason you didn't know that write under this pen name. And the way they write just makes you want to keep reading, makes you like, I don't care about caring about characters. And honestly, in Leviathan Wakes, the very first books of the Expanse series, I hated Holden. Hated him with a passion. But the overall story of it, I loved. And I've seen people say that it's a horror story. I don't consider it horror. It's kind of like Alien. I don't consider Alien a horror movie. It's a sci-fi thriller. And I would say for the first book in the Expanse series, Leviathan Wakes, it is a sci-fi thriller. You could consider part of it maybe kind of horror adjacent, the same way that you would Alien. But for me, Alien is a sci-fi thriller movie. It's not very scary. It's got thrills and whatnot, and that's how I feel about Leviathan Wakes. But it made James S.A. Corey where I've just like, this has been one of the only series that I've picked up and just continued reading over and over and over again. So my number 2, the Expanse series, definitely pick it up. If you've not read any of the Expanse books, start with Leviathan Wakes to get the full story. It wraps up pretty neat, so like you don't have to keep reading it. But I don't know why you wouldn't keep picking up the rest of the books. That's how much I love it. And it's kind of where, like, anything James S.A. Corey puts out, I will probably be picking up and reading. And finally, my top I said this was in no particular order at the beginning, but my top new author to me is Stephen Graham Jones. And I know people are going to expect me to say Buffalo Hunter Hunter, or My Heart is a Chainsaw, or Teenage Slasher, or any of his other books. But my top book, and approachability wise for me, is Killer on the Road / The Babysitter Lives. I think that book is phenomenal, especially Killer on the Road. And from an aspect of taking someone who doesn't read and who's in the movies and be like, hey, like what's a good like horror book that I could read? I would probably hand them Killer on the Road / Babysitter Lives. I put this on Blue Sky the other day. Like, adapt this book because it's a double book. So basically, you read one side and then you flip it, and then you've got the other story. So half of the book is one story. You flip it. The other half of the book is the other story. Cool design. There's a couple magic books that are actually like that, which is really cool. But basically, I have this as like, imagine this being adapted, but grindhouse style, like Quentin Tarantino and Rodriguez did the grindhouse movies in, was it like 2006, 2007 with Death Proof and Planet Terror. Do it on like where like the whole thing, like the grainy film, the film burn, like the acid burns in the film cutting, like for scenes that are just too expensive to shoot. Or where like you can imply something going on and you need to like cut it. Like, it lends itself to that style. Like when I was reading it, especially Killer on the Road, that's my favorite of the two in this book. I was so all in. The highway that's mentioned is a highway my family and I traveled a lot, going from Idaho to Kansas City to visit my grandparents over the summers. There's a call out to Little America, which is this massive truck stop. There's actually two of them in Wyoming, but like seeing like this stuff called out and being on this highway that I've traveled on when I was younger was just like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And it's so, I don't know, like you feel like you get sucked into a horror movie. And I will say, I'm gonna preface this because I'm sure other people are gonna bring it up. Stephen Graham Jones has a writing style that's very, very different and can be a little jarring when you first read it. And this, again, this coming from someone who's not and never been like a super avid reader until like this last year. But it can take a minute to get into it. It doesn't flow nearly like other books that I've mentioned before. I say, oh, you pick it up, you just read it, just flows. It is one for me that's a little bit more of a struggle read, and I think a lot of that, I keep noticing, I'm just staring at my notes. It's a little bit more of a struggle to start off with, but once you kind of get the cadence down and like hear the perspective, like it clicks and it moves. I think another problem is I've heard Stephen Graham Jones speak a lot, and it is so hard for me to read one of his books without hearing his voice and in his cadence of speaking. But it is by far one of my favorite books that I've read this year. I would happily hand this book to anyone who wants to get into horror, who's not a horror reader, who's looking for something a little bit different. And Babysitter Lives, the other side of the book, like I said, it's not my favorite of the two, but it's such an interesting story. So Killer on the Road, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a killer on the road. The whole thing takes place on the highway. And just like craziness ensues by this interesting entity, I'm going to call them. They're a person, but they've got some powers going on. Babysitter Lives is a really interesting take on kind of like a babysitter story and playing a game and ending up passing into like an alternate dimension or a mirror dimension. And it's really good. It has an ending where you're just like, what the heck just happened? It's like, oh no, what's going on? But Killer on the Road induced a panic attack in me while I was reading it. And so that just bumped it up so many levels while I was reading it. So I highly recommend it. If you've not read any Stephen Graham Jones, you can start with any of his books, obviously. But if you want to kind of dabble in, I would say Killer on the Road / Babysitter Loads. Like I said, it's one single book, but you flip it to get the two different stories. And it's so good. But that's my top 5 list plus my Blake Crouch honorable mention. I've rambled a lot, so I would love to hear kind of what your top 5 like new authors to you for this year was, or that you're planning on reading next year, or just top 5 books in general for the year. But these are like my top 5 new to me. Again, being new to reading 55 books this year, I only repeated a couple authors that I've previously read. So pretty much everything was new to me. And it was really hard to kind of whittle it down without picking just like the ones you hear all the time. But this is my list. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear what you have, who's on your list. And I will see you in the next video. And I may or may not edit the hell out of this, or, we'll see how it goes. Just do it live. Just do it live. Anyways, peace out, everyone.